With the FRTB compliance deadline being delayed to January 2022, is FRTB a priority for banks?
It's a really good question. So many firms will take a potentially relaxed view. They have longer to implement it. But for any firm that is serious around FRTB, absolutely. It's still on the agenda and it's still a priority. And the real reason for that is the fact that it takes up much, much more time to implement these kind of changes than you'd expect. And actually, the deadline isn't as long as you would imagine. So if we break it down in individual components, what have we got? Well, let's roll all the way back. So if we go back a couple of years in January 2016, and FRTB first came out, we had a compliance deadline of December 2019, so we had about 4 years. Over the course of 2016 and 2017, the individual regulators chose to postpone the compliance deadline of FRTB. And so bit by bit, first we had the Europeans, you had Australia, you had the Canadians, and one by one, each of the regulators chose to delay FRTB. And as each of them chose to delay FRTB by at least a year, it then brought into the key question, when does FRTB actually come into effect? When should a bank be ready? And so with that in mind, in 2017, in December, the BCBS, who are the Basel standards and the key regulator here, then revised the deadlines. And so then they revised deadlines to January 2022. Now, with the revised deadlines, you're saying, hey, we've got more time. What are we going to do? And for a bank which is just doing standardized approach, it's probably not unduly challenging to implement FRTB on time. And they probably can be a little more relaxed. But for those banks that are looking for IMA approval, they have to go through processes of refining their methodology. So what do I do about implementing expected shortfall? They have to go through and align their middle office and their front office systems. It's a big, big piece of work for some institutions. And then they need to go through the process of actually implementing a solution for NMRF requirements, which again, something completely new they haven't done. So with all that in mind, there's an awful lot of work to do. And 3 3/4 years may not sound like it's a particularly challenging deadline, but the sheer quantity of work means that actually it can be challenging. Now, on top of that, this isn't like a MiFID deadline, or this isn't a conduct regulation, this is a prudential regulation. And the key difference with prudential regulation is the fact that you need to be ready in advance of the deadline. And so in some jurisdictions, you may have parallel runs. So you may need 12 months worth of data before you get to January 2022. And in addition to that, in some jurisdictions, there may be observation periods. So your 3 years or 3 and a bit years quickly becomes shorter and shorter time allocated to actual implementation and more time to observing. That's why it's still a priority for 2018 and 2019.